I feel very honoured indeed to have received this award. My original expectation for the book was rather modest. I started on it some 30 years ago, after reading a book on English hawk moths, that I was particularly inspired by the beautiful larvae of these moths. And it occurred to me then that Australia needed a similar book. When I first joined with my co-authors some 9 to 10 years ago to bring the book to reality, we first thought then that there wouldn't be a great deal more to discover about these moths that are so familiar to many people. And the plan was then to summarise what we knew with lots of photographs. But as work started, it didn't take long before we were finding new things. We were finding new food plants, finding new life histories, new parasitoids, new distribution records, and on it went. And these are some of the things that we have tried to address in the book. It has been a truly collaborative project between us three authors, each of us contributing our own special skills and experiences. But the honour for this medal must also be shared with many others who contributed to the book's success. In this regard, my co-authors and I would like to especially thank the editors, Mary Ann Horak and Ian Kitching, both of whom read every word of the 600-page manuscript, suggesting many amendments that greatly improved the accuracy and the presentation of the book. And likewise, Ted Edwards offered many more helpful suggestions and original information for the book. And Murray Upton viewed the finished manuscript for consistency, and that was a task of no mean feat. Buck Richardson, who assisted me with Photoshop of doing the life history plates, and he spent many, many hours assembling the adult plates. David Rentz took numerous photographs of male dissections, which is a crucial part of this book. And Ivan Nozak, we thank him for his superb line drawings that help make the presentation of the book that much more professional. And a special thanks to my wife, Margaret, and also to my former wife, Barbara, and my son, Tim, who went on many field trips with me, often to very remote localities, and sometimes under pretty hardship conditions. There are others equally important that my co-authors will thank, but there are also many others who have helped in a variety of ways, too many to mention individually, and to each of those persons, I personally apologise, and I give my thanks for their significant contributions. I would like to sort of finish by saying that in my youth and close association with the Australian Museum, I had the privilege of briefly personally knowing Gilbert Whitley, something that sort of tells my age, but nevertheless makes this medal so much more meaningful for me. Yeah, thank you. I'll now hand over to Jim Tuttle, my co-author.
It's a great honor for me personally to be a part of this prestigious Whitley Award as the Australian Book of the Year, especially given the level of competition among the broad range of zoological topics that are covered in the competition. Yet we recognize, as Max pointed out, that such accomplishments would not have been possible without the many people who shared their expertise, and in the case of field exploration, their local knowledge of the habitats we tried to explore. There are many that I personally called upon time and time again, and I would like to acknowledge those individually. The first is on a technical level. Rudolph Rougerie of France is the administrator of the hawk moth section of the Barcode of Life database, commonly known as BOLD, who gave us continued analysis of our DNA samples and helped lead us in the directions that our field efforts took. The rest of the people that I am going to mention were heavily involved with me personally in the field, making numerous trips. Bjorn Felsted, who at the time was living in the Brisbane area, but is now living in Sweden. Trevor and Carol Dean of New South Wales, who were always offering assistance and help wherever they could. And then Wynne Robinson, who happens to be their daughter, lives in far north Queensland. She gave us access to her property and went out in the field with me a number of times. And then there's two women that I'd like to give special thanks to. One is Mac's wife, Margaret Humphrey, for putting up with me on the many long-term visits that I had during the evolution of this project over several years. I often spent a couple months at a time as a guest in their house. And in addition, the late Dawn Ludwig, my mother-in-law, who likewise put up with me on my many visits to Rockhampton, where I tended to combine family with field work. A couple more people that I'd like to mention, though, are David Sleep and the late Tom Sleep, his father, who also lived in the Brisbane area. David Knowles from Western Australia, and Craig Naminsky and Jeff Martin of the Northern Territory. Caitlin Pink, who was on the staff at the Christmas Island National Park, almost single-handedly provided most of the data that we have from Christmas Island. And then a general mention needs to go out to the Australian and North American parasitic wasp and fly specialists that were just too many to name, but without whose identifications we couldn't have tied up a lot of the loose ends on the caterpillar-parasite relationships. This project offered me personally the opportunity to explore Australia's temperate southeast, the wet tropics, the top end, the outback center, the Torres Strait Islands, and Western Australia in a way that only a naturalist could appreciate, and it allowed me to make many friends along the way. It has been an experience that I will always cherish, and the Whitley Award recognition only enhances the feeling of pride and accomplishment. I wish to thank everyone that's helped us out through this process. Now I'll turn it now over to David Lane.
Thank you, Jim. As an introduction, when I was first approached to join the authorship of Hawk Moths Australia, I had no hesitation in accepting, though, but I realised with, might say, some trepidation that the great enormity of the challenges ahead. Through the greater part of my life, I've had a very strong interest in the Lepidoptera fauna of Australia, particularly the northern tropical parts, and in combination to a certain degree, New Guinea. Hawk moths has always been a very special part of that interest, and this background gave reason to understand the huge gaps of knowledge that surrounded the life histories and biologies of the majority of the Australian species, in combination with the potential for additional unknown species and species complex that need be resolved. And so my journey then began with this wonderful trio that I've been working with. So I really wish to thank Max and Jim, firstly, for inviting me into the project. That was most unexpected, and it's been an absolute treat to have gone that journey. Knowing the background and skill sets of my two co-authors, I had high hopes of at least being able to contribute to a quality scientific work on the Australian fauna. However, I had absolutely no thoughts that this book might be so well received as it has been, and hence any consideration receiving such a high award as the Whitley Medal had never even entered my thought patterns. I'm extremely thrilled and humbled to be receiving such an award, and that's honestly beyond my wildest expectations to be in this position. In conjunction with Max and Jim, there's a couple of people that I'd like to especially mention. Ted Edwards of the Australian National Insect Collection in Canberra has, to me, always, before and beyond this project, been an exceptional assistance. His wonderful knowledge and expertise has always been so generously handed out, and support has just been absolutely amazing. There are three people that I'd also like to mention, because their backgrounds are essentially butterfly people, but in combination they went to varying degrees to collect larvae and examples of sphinges that we were pursuing. And those three people are Chris Muller, Mark Hopkinson and Cliff Meyer, all from Eastern Australia. But their expertise is extended beyond what their usual roles were, and it's been greatly appreciated. Two areas that we've also discussed about being of quite significance were access to the Torres Strait. And two councillors within the Torres Strait Island Regional Council certainly spring to mind. Councillor Mario Sabatino of Hammond Island, in combination with Councillor Torenzo Olasala from Duan Island Regional Council, both offered wonderful assistance and generosity in allowing us to visit those islands and more or less unlimited access to pursue our goals. So that was so highly appreciated. And lastly, but not least, Gary and Nada Sankowski, who are plant experts living in Tolga outside the Atherton Tablelands, were always generously offering to, if not identify plants, tell us where we can find plants. And without their assistance, none of the success would have been quite as great, as good as it has been. So thank you. That's my little speech for this morning, and I'm finished here. Thank you.